violence are an attack on our democracy itself. We want all sides to come together in peace and harmony. We can do it. We can do it.
It is Thursday, October 25th, and this is Fox and Friends First, happening right now at 4 a.m. here on the East Coast. A Fox News alert for you. President Trump condemning the wave of bomb scares that have the feds on a nationwide manhunt and a brand new target overnight as the president calls for unity. The left pointing fingers directly at him. And caravans shrinking. Will thousands of illegals manage to reach our border? We'll have the latest from Mexico. Fox and Friends First starts right now. And good morning to you. You are watching Fox and Friends First on this Thursday morning. I'm Heather Childers. Going to be a busy day, so let's get right to that Fox News alert for you. And our top story, the urgent search for a would-be political bomber targeting prominent liberal and Democratic political figures. President Trump vowing to find those responsible.
My highest duty, as you know, as president, is to keep America safe. We will find those responsible and we will bring them to justice.
Todd Pyler joins us now with the very latest on the nationwide manhunt. Boy, Todd, what a day yesterday as this just continued to unfold. In quite a short period of time over the course of the morning and early afternoon. Heather, good morning. Right now, law enforcement says they think one person or group is responsible, with the FBI director saying this is now the agency's highest priority. All this as authorities are now searching for a package reportedly addressed to Joe Biden. Postal workers reportedly told of a possible package in their system. So far, there's been no indication of anything actually being found at Biden's home. He later called for an end to the hatred. We're also getting a look at the package sent to CNN. The AP reporting it was made from PVC pipe covered with black tape, packed with powder and glass, hooked up to a small battery. Take a look at this. You can see how widespread the targets are. The home of George Soros on Monday, north of New York City. That is close to the home of Bill and Hillary Clinton, where a package was addressed before it was intercepted by the Secret Service on Tuesday. Then early yesterday morning, the Secret Service intercepted a package addressed to the D.C. home of Barack Obama, followed by the evacuation of the Time Warner Center and CNN here in New York City, caused by that suspicious package we showed you, addressed to former CIA Director John Brennan. Then late morning, the police department in Sunrise, Florida, announced it was investigating a suspicious package sent to the office of Congresswoman Debbie Wasserman Schultz. It was erroneously addressed to former Attorney General Eric Holder, but had the office of Wasserman Schultz as the return address, as did the other packages reportedly. Later, U.S. Capitol Police at their screening facility in Maryland investigated a suspicious package addressed to Congresswoman Maxine Waters' D.C. office, while the Los Angeles Central Mail facility was evacuated after employees there found a suspicious package also addressed to Waters. With that, President Trump denounced these acts of terror at his rally last night.
Any acts or threats of political violence are an attack on our democracy itself. No nation can succeed that tolerates violence or the threat of violence as a method of political intimidation, coercion, or control.
Meantime, security tight here in New York City, with National Guard soldiers deployed at bridges, tunnels, and airports, as well as increased police presence at media organizations. Heather?
Yeah, I live one block over from the Time Warner Center, so I was sheltering in place for, at least 2 hours yesterday. It was really remarkable. Thank you so much, Todd.
No problem.
Appreciate it. One of those targets, as Todd mentioned, former CIA Director John Brennan, wasting no time blaming President Trump.
Donald Trump too often has helped to incite some of these feelings of anger, if not violence. This is what, unfortunately, a lot of bullies and a lot of individuals do.
Well, Brennan, who has been an outspoken critic of the president, we all know that, calling his rhetoric un-American. The two battled over the summer, igniting a debate over the security clearances of former government officials. And Brennan, not the only one to come out swinging against the president. In a joint statement, House Minority Leader Nancy Pelosi and Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer saying in part, quote, "We all take an oath to support and defend the Constitution and protect the American people, and that is our first responsibility." However, President Trump's words ring hollow until he reverses his statements that condone acts of violence. Much more on all of this coming up. But now to another Fox News alert for you. President Trump pointing the finger at Democrats for the migrant caravan inching closer to the border at his rally in Wisconsin. Jackie Banez is here now live in studio with how the administration's efforts with Mexico are thinning out the march. Good morning, Jackie.
Hey, good morning, Heather. The two sides discussing how to handle the caravan if and when it reaches the U.S. border. Mexican officials say the caravan is dwindling, with hundreds sick and exhausted, accepting government offers to bus them back home. President Trump blaming Democrats for weak immigration laws at his rally last night. Listen.
The Democrat Party is openly encouraging caravan after caravan of illegal aliens to violate our laws and break into our country. Right now is the sole result of Democrat laws and activist Democrat judges that do whatever they want and that prevent us from returning illegal aliens back home.
Mexico says that there are about 3,600 left in the march, with more than 1,000 miles to go. The Trump administration looking for ways to speed up removing migrants with no legal reason to stay in the U.S. CNN reporting that Homeland Security officials are considering holding them at the Mexico border before allowing entry into the states. Advocates say the administration is just trying to block migrants from claiming asylum. Heather?
Yeah, 3,600 now. That's actually a pretty big drop.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Jackie. Mm-hmm. Well, while that caravan could pose a serious threat to our border once it arrives, Judge Alex Farrar, an immigrant himself, says that it could actually help President Trump and Republicans in November.
The problem is what it leads to beyond that, because if let's say a wave of 7,000 or 4,000 immigrants make it to the U.S. border and rush across, I don't see how they're stopped. But what it does is it leaves the impression to other countries, other people, that that's the way to get into the U.S. I actually think that if these immigrants were able to make it to the U.S. by Election Day, it would actually benefit Trump, because I think that videos of people just rushing across the border and overwhelming the Border Patrol, I can't imagine anything that would be a better argument for the wall that he wants so badly. And I think there would be a lot of people who change their position on immigration if that were to happen.
And much more on that coming up as well. Another Fox News alert for you. Police now questioning a man accused of killing 2 people at a Kroger supermarket. Gregory Bush charged with murder after police say that he shot one person inside the store and then one in the parking lot. This happened near Louisville, Kentucky.
Some people started running, and they said, he's shooting. So I went to get down on the ground. I'm in the store shopping. I mean, you don't think something like this is going to happen.
An armed man in the parking lot tried to shoot Bush to stop him, but missed. Witnesses say that the killings could be racially motivated. 2 Satan-worshiping middle school students are caught in a chilling plot to kill their classmates. Listen to this story. Look at this. Knives, scissors, a pizza cutter, all of that among the weapons police found on the girls who are just 11 and 12 years old.
They wanted to kill at least 15 people, and were waiting in the bathroom for the opportunity to find smaller kids that they could overpower.
Man, 11 and 12 years old. Well, investigators also found this hand-drawn map of the school reading "Go to Kill in the Bathroom." Both girls, now expelled, are facing charges. Goodness. Well, CIA Director Gina Haspel getting a first-hand account of columnist Jamal Khashoggi's death. During her trip to Turkey, Haspel reportedly listened to the audio recording we've all heard about of the incident, revealing some gruesome details about what happened inside the Saudi consulate in Istanbul. Meantime, the Crown Prince of Saudi Arabia speaking publicly for the first time since Khashoggi's death.
The crime was really painful to all Saudis. And I believe it is painful to every human in the world. It is a heinous crime that cannot be justified.
Well, Turkey's president called Khashoggi's death premeditated murder. The Saudis claim that he died during a fight. Well, let's switch gears and talk about some sports now. The LA Dodgers bullpen drops the ball, sending them home facing a 2-game deficit in the World Series.
Flies one into right. This one will drop. Red Sox are on top. 2-run score.
J.D. Martinez's 2-run single in the fifth, giving the Boston Red Sox a 4-2 win in Game 2. L.A. hosts Game 3 tomorrow night on Fox. In the meantime, a California-Boston market hoping the Dodgers make a comeback as they cover the Boston part of their sign with an L.A. one just for the World Series. And how about this? Good news, you still have a chance to become America's next millionaire. The Powerball jackpot climbing to $750 million after no one picked last night's winning numbers. By the way, those numbers were 3, 21, 45, 53, 56, and then there was a Powerball of 22. The next drawing is Saturday. And so far, no one's come forward with that nearly $1.6 billion Mega Millions, the winner. They don't have to, though, because they won in South Carolina. And under South Carolina law, the store that sold the ticket will get a $50,000 prize, and they don't have to come forward. So we may never know. Well, still to come. Those pipe bombs sent to Democrats and CNN, they all have the same kind of packaging. We've seen the images. So what could that tell us about the person who mailed them? Former FBI Special Agent and Army Ranger Chad Jenkins digs into that case up next. Plus,
this is nothing we'd ever want to hurt anybody with. We never wanted to be in this situation.
2 bakers fighting for their faith after getting a $135,000 fine. Their religious liberty case that could end up in the Supreme Court. Welcome back to Fox and Friends First. Back to our top story and the breaking developments about the bomb threats targeting Democrats. Investigators say that the packages all bear similar markings and are likely from the same source. So what does that tell us about the suspect or the suspects? Here now to weigh in is former FBI Special Agent Chad Jenkins. Chad, thank you very much for joining us on this important morning. People waking up wanting to know what is the very latest on this. Is there any additional information or a suspect? Let's begin with that. If we can maybe bring up the image of what we've seen of the package so far, at least this is the one I believe that was delivered to CNN, and what the elements of it tell you about who may have sent this.
Yeah, we see multiple images of the packages, of the markings, of the pipe bomb itself. So with it now being 7 packages sent throughout the country, and all of them relatively similar in scope, it would lead me to believe that it is one group or one individual that has done this. And that's what the FBI is great at right now, is doing the forensic analysis, DNA, biometrics of those packages to determine if they can pull any latent prints or anything of that nature to go ahead and start running it in the database to see if it gets a hit.
And they'll obviously be aided in that because none of them actually exploded. So they have, the packages in total.
Correct, and it's really a low level of sophistication. If you look at all these pipe bombs, not overly complicated in making them. It also will be critical to see if any of those devices were actually wired and ready to actually blow. We are hearing the term that it could potentially be a device. That means it could have all the components, it could have the explosive, but it was not in fact rigged, ready to blow. And right now we're 0 for 7 for any of these devices actually going off.
What does it tell you? Actually, I was going to ask you one question in terms of who they were delivered to. Brennan specifically, the one that we were looking at there, used to be a contributor at CNN. So whoever sent it to CNN apparently may have known that. So that's why his name was there, the one that was delivered there. But also this possibility that it was wrapped in a parody ISIS flag. We're not hearing a lot about that.
No, we're not. And there was one image in particular that appeared to have the ISIS flag with the Arabic script. I think that would be a diversionary tactic from whoever the perpetrator is, just to throw off the investigators. Obviously, it's politically motivated. We're seeing all of the individuals who are the recipients of these looks to be politically motivated. However, we cannot rule out that it's a false flag operation as well. And while that still would be politically motivated, it would make it appear that it was the opposite. position when in fact it's not.
Right. And then the other thing that we're also not hearing a lot about that Catherine Herridge mentioned yesterday, the FBI's elite bomb unit telling us that they've actually seen an uptick in package bombs like these. We have a statement from them said we've seen probably an increase in parcel bombs that has been happening maybe since the mid-2016 timeframe, and then it goes on from there. So an increase in these types of explosives may be due in part to the availability of how to build them online?
Absolutely. The internet age, anybody can come in and educate themselves relatively quickly. These are low-level, sophisticated devices to put together, similar to IEDs that are even in Iraq, Afghanistan. Low-level sophistication, however, they can pack a punch and do incredible damage.
Mm-hmm. One final question, though. Did it look to you, I mean, when you send something through the post office, you usually see these markings over the stamps. First, there was like this 6 stamps, at least in the one that we saw, so more postage than is needed. But then it also, did it appear to you that it actually had gone through the Postal Service?
Well, we're getting conflicting reports. Some are saying it was more of a courier service that was used. That will help also in determining, especially in the amount of packages that were sent out. 7, that's where, okay, flood every of those locations for witness interviews to really hone in on who brought the package, security surveillance footage. That's where I think the FBI and all of the federal law enforcement agencies right now will be able to hone in on this group or this individual doing this.
Yeah, Chad, I think that they will do it very quickly, too. So we'll see what develops on that front today. Thank you so much for joining us. We appreciate your insight.
Thanks, Heather.
All right. Well, lawmakers on both sides of the aisle condemning whomever sent those pipe bombs. Carly Shimkus has the reaction pouring in from Capitol Hill. And convicted sex offenders voting in schools could happen. And this morning, New York's Governor Andrew Cuomo is defending that decision. Welcome back to Fox and Friends First. It is a showdown in the Sunshine State as Florida wraps up its final gubernatorial debate. Immigration sparking a heated exchange between Republican Ron DeSantis and Democrat Andrew Gillum.
He will support sanctuary cities. He said he will not cooperate with Donald Trump's ICE. He hates Trump so much. Why would you allow your dislike for the president to knowingly put communities at risk?
A crime like that, you will be deported from the United States.
You will cooperate?
We will absolutely cooperate with any federal order that comes down.
Well, despite Gillum's calls to abolish ICE, Real Clear Politics has him leading DeSantis by nearly 4 points. And a former opponent of House Speaker Paul Ryan could face life in prison for allegedly trying to kill someone with radioactive material. Now, the FBI says that Jeremy Ryan tried buying the substance online, but he didn't know his intended target. Ryan, also called Segway Jeremy, ran against the House Speaker in 2012. He was known for riding a Segway around the Wisconsin Capitol, apparently with a neck brace that he says was a result of police brutality. So let's get back to our top story for you. The manhunt for the person responsible for setting off a series of bomb scares with devices addressed to high-profile Democrats and the offices, I should say, of CNN. Social media reaction pouring in overnight. Carly Shimkus with Fox News Headlines 24/7. Sirius XM 115 is here with the comments from both sides of the aisle. Good morning.
Hey, good morning, Heather. So amid heightened political attentions, this situation really sparking a major call for peace and civility from folks, like you said, on both sides of the aisle. Let's get to a tweet from the president's daughter, Ivanka Trump. She says, "I strongly condemn the attempted acts of violence against President Obama, the Clinton family, CNN, and others. There is no excuse. America is better than this. Gratitude to the Secret Service and law enforcement for all they do to keep this nation safe." Vice President Mike Pence also saying those responsible will be held accountable. He tweets, "We condemn the attempted unprecedented attacks against the former president, the Clintons, CNN, and others. These cowardly actions are despicable, and there is no place in this country. Grateful for the swift response from the Secret Service and law enforcement. He goes on to say those responsible will be brought to justice. And then New York Democratic Senator Kirsten Gillibrand, she says today's atrocious acts of terror were intended to instill fear and intimidate elected officials and journalists. It won't work. I'm grateful to the Secret Service, FBI, Capitol Police, New York State Police, NYPD, and local law enforcement officials who acted immediately to keep people safe. So a lot of praise coming in for everybody that worked together to make sure that these bombs didn't go off or these explosive devices were contained and nobody was hurt.
The response really was amazing from NYPD. So let's talk about Roseanne, though. Let's switch gears. The Connors. A lot of people said this would happen, losing 25% of their viewers.
Yeah, that's right. So let's get straight to the numbers. The second episode of The Connors received 7.9 million viewers. That's about 25% less than the season premiere, which was 10.5 million viewers. This really coming as no surprise, as a lot of people suspected that some folks would tune in just to see how the show would kill off Roseanne Barr's character. Brian says he's not surprised. Take the headliner out and wonder how the show will do. Let McDonald's eliminate its fries and see how business proceeds. Another Twitter user says, I'm shocked, said no one. And lastly, ABC's rush to judgment is an epic fail. So a lot of people not surprised at the dwindling viewership.
Yeah, it would be interesting if another network brought Roseanne back for her own show and see how the ratings compare.
Wow, yeah, we'll see if that happens down the road. You never know.
All right. Thank you so much, Carly.
Thanks a lot, Heather.
Well, back to our top story. As the FBI investigates those pipe bombs, Congressman Steve Scalise, who survived an assassination attempt, says it's time for both sides to come together.
The most important thing is to get back to what made this country great. Violence is never an answer.
More from him up next. And is the migrant caravan building the case for building that border wall? We'll talk about that up next as well. Welcome back. Half past the top of the hour. We're back with this Fox News alert for you. A nationwide manhunt for a would-be political bomber intensifying. A string of suspicious packages sent to prominent Democratic leaders. Right now, authorities looking into a possible package sent to former Vice President Joe Biden. So far, there's been no indication of anything actually being found at Biden's home, though. President Trump vowing to bring whomever is responsible to justice and calling for unity.
There's much we can do to bring our nation together. For example, those engaged in the political arena must stop treating political opponents as being morally defective.
Well, you can see the widespread threats made against the Clintons, the Obamas, CNN, and others. None of those devices went off, and no one was injured, thankfully. And the FBI, of course, working around the clock to figure out who sent those potentially explosive packages. But House Majority Whip Steve Scalise, who was nearly shot to death at that congressional softball practice last year, says violence is never the answer.
The most important thing is to get back to what made this country great. Our founders didn't set up some kind of system where everybody had to think the same way. In fact, they challenged their government, and they wanted a system where individual people can speak their views and even speak out against their government, and they put the First Amendment ultimately in the Constitution to ensure that right. But the difference is we all have, our disagreements. You should never make those personal, and you should never think that violence is a way to settle our political differences. We settle them at the ballot box. Violence is never an answer to somebody's political disagreement with somebody else.
Well, Congressman Scalise will be joining Fox and Friends later this morning in the 8 o'clock hour, so certainly want to hear from him. A political disagreement, the motivation behind a new threat against a Republican. A New Jersey congressional candidate, Jay Weber, receiving an anonymous letter reading in part, "You better hope you don't win or else." It also threatens his 7 children. Weber responding on Twitter, criticizing a candidate on the issues is part of politics. Threatening my children is not. He goes on to say, "We will not be intimidated." How about this story? Bakers hit with a $135,000 fine for refusing to serve a same-sex couple, and they want their case in front of the Supreme Court. The owners of the now closed Sweet Cakes by Melissa appealing a decision from an Oregon appeals court forcing them to pay emotional damages to the couple that they turned away, citing religious reasons.
This is nothing we'd ever want to hurt anybody with. We never wanted to be in this situation, but I have to say, I don't take it back. We have to live out our religious beliefs, and that's what we aim to do.
Well, it is unclear when the Supreme Court will decide whether to take the case, and we'll continue to update you on that. In the meantime, New York Governor Andrew Cuomo, his move to allow convicted sex offenders to vote at polling places inside schools, well, instead of sending in an absentee ballot, he wants them to be able to go to those polling places. Listen.
Giving them the right to vote after they have done their time and paid their price to society is a way of reintegrating them. Sex offenders can only vote in a supervised situation.
So this is part of Cuomo's mass pardoning policy that allows criminal-like sex offenders to vote. The Democrat taking a stance during a gubernatorial debate against Republican rival Mark Molinaro. How about this other Fox News alert for you? The migrant caravan closer than ever to the United States, defying warnings from the White House as President Trump renews his promise to keep the border secure.
When our country is assaulted by thousands and thousands of people marching, and they openly say, we're going to go into the country, we can't do that. We started the wall. You're going to see a very secure border. You just watch.
This as another caravan just formed in Central America, starting its trek toward our southern border. So is this helping the president build his case for building the wall? And joining me now to talk about it is the Director of Policy Studies for the Center for Immigration Studies, Jessica Vaughn. We always love having her with us. Thank you, Jessica.
Good morning.
So let's talk first about some of the discrepancies in numbers. We had Jackie Ibanez on earlier talking about this, what I said would be a drastic decrease, that it's now just down to about 3,600. But then we have other reports that it's still up to about 10,000. So why are we seeing this difference in numbers?
Well, I don't know why there's such a discrepancy, but it could be that the larger caravan is breaking up. We saw this happen with the last one in the spring, where we know that the smuggling groups do infiltrate these caravans. They form them supposedly so people will feel safer, but the smugglers infiltrate them and try to peel people off to pay them to bring them illegally. And some may feel that they have a better chance of getting in illegally with the smuggler than with the caravan, especially with the president saying he's not going to let the caravan in.
And that is so dangerous.
Also, some people are getting tired.
Yeah.
It is very dangerous. It's always worse to be with a criminal smuggling group. But clearly some people are getting tired and worn out and want to go home, or may be willing to take Mexico up on its offer of asylum to those who might qualify. Mm-hmm. So I think that it's, 10,000 people is a lot of people to keep, sort of together and organized.
Right.
So
and because of the large numbers, people actually even having an issue with the term migrant caravan, saying that, it's much more than that headed towards our border. And does this increase, President Trump's chances of getting funding for the border wall that he has campaigned on since the very beginning before he became president?
Well, it should. It definitely should, because and the nearby places there, people used to gather en masse and just run across when the sun went down. And when they put in the triple fencing, people couldn't do that anymore. It's one of the most controlled parts of the border that we have. So we need more barriers like that to prevent these kinds of things from happening. But this caravan is also headed for the legal port of entry and aiming to take advantage of our laws and policies that have been applied there. And so we do still need changes in the law to give the government more flexibility in dealing with people who are applying for asylum.
And not only giving,
that's a different problem.
Not only giving, our government more flexibility, also we have to talk about the kind of message that this could send to other countries.
That's exactly right, and the message is already out. We've seen lots of other countries, people from places like Bangladesh, increasing the numbers of apprehensions in other parts along the border, especially Arizona. We're also hearing reports now from the northern border of people from Romania, for example, hundreds of people arriving at our northern border and asking for asylum and coming in that way. So the message is out to the rest of the world that if you show up at our border, you can get through by asking for asylum, and we cannot continue to send that message.
But, I mean, we were talking about the numbers yesterday in terms of the backlog on asylum cases. It's like 325,000. So something's got to give. Thank you so much, Jessica, for joining us. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Have a good day. Well, the time now is about 20 minutes until the top of the hour. President Trump about to deliver on another promise, what he's doing today to crack down on out-of-control prescription drug prices. Plus,
okay, people, tomorrow morning, 10 a.m., Santa's coming to town.
Santa! Oh, my God! Santa here? I know him.
I could watch that movie over and over. Good news, kids. Looks like Santa's splurging this year. We'll explain up next. Welcome back. You're watching Fox and Friends First. A highly contagious virus kills a 7th child at a New Jersey rehabilitation center. The adenovirus sickening 11 other children at the center that provides long-term care for medically fragile children. Now, it's a common virus that usually causes mild respiratory problems. New Jersey Governor Phil Murphy says that it's unclear exactly how this outbreak started. The health department found that hand washing deficiencies were happening in that specific facility, so they're working on it. Man. Well, for the first time in nearly 2 decades, the FDA approving a brand new flu treatment. It's called Zofluza, and it's a single-dose, fast-acting, we're told, oral medication. It can be used by patients 12 and older within 48 hours of actually getting sick. So that's different. Researchers say that it can cut down on the severity of symptoms and how long they last. According to the CDC, more than 80,000 people died from the flu last winter. All eyes on the stock market today after a huge plunge just wipes out the Dow's gains for the entire year. Colin McShane from our sister network, Fox Business, here now with more on how rising mortgage rates are taking its toll on the market this month.
Stocks taking another beating on Wall Street Wednesday. The Dow falling into negative territory for the year after sinking more than 600 points. The S&P 500 also erasing its gains for the year, and the Nasdaq seeing its worst percentage loss since 2011. Investors selling after mixed profit reports and some new worries about the costs of higher interest rates. Now, here's one reason they're worrying: rising mortgage rates, putting a hurt on housing. New home sales plunging 5.5% in September to near a 2-year low. Looks like Santa is ready to splurge this year. Consumers telling the National Retail Federation that they do plan to spend a little more than $1,000 during the holiday season, and that's around a 4% increase from last year. A lot more kids are giving their mom and dad buyer's remorse. More than half of parents surveyed by the company Compare Cards say they let their children borrow their credit card for online purchases. And get this, nearly half of them regret doing so afterwards. That's business. I'm Colin McShane.
Well, the time now is about 15 minutes until the top of the hour, and President Trump immediately condemning the bomb attacks. But you wouldn't know it if you listened to his critics. Is the left trying to score a cheap political victory? We'll debate it up next.
If you look at who they've targeted so far, it's almost like they're following Donald Trump's Twitter feed.
You know, we are in an era now where violence seems to have license by the President of the United States.
but the president certainly has encouraged this kind of rhetoric.
This is what happened when the president calls you the enemy of the people. Why did CNN get the bomb?
You know, so to be Sherlock Holmes.
And the Obamas. Fox News hasn't gotten a bomb yet.
President Trump condemning the bomb threats at his Wisconsin rally, but Democrats and the media more interested in placing the blame on him. So is that fair? Here to debate it is Democratic strategist Mustafa Tamiz and GOP political analyst Mark Schmitt. Thank you both for joining us this morning. We appreciate it. So at least 7 targets so far. Reports this morning of a possible bomb sent to former Vice President Joe Biden. Mustafa, I'll let you start with this. I mean, you hear the outrage already being expressed from some in the mainstream media. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, look, I mean, the President Trump has, from his beginning, when he started his rallies, he said he paid for anybody who would beat up a protester. He's consistently ramped up this rhetoric, and what used to be dog whistles are now basically a bugle horn, and he's become insider-in-chief. And he needs to tamp this down. Even last night at a rally in Wisconsin, he said, I'm holding back, because in the past he didn't hold back, and you create an environment in which, escalating rhetoric creates violence.
Here's what he had to say last night, since you brought it up, in terms of calling for unity in Wisconsin. Let's listen briefly.
Any acts or threats of political violence are an attack on our democracy itself.
So, Mark, but at the same time, Mustafa mentioned, the president and things that he said. We've had all of these comments from the left as well. We've had Hillary Clinton coming out saying, we can't be civil until Democrats get back in office. We've had Eric Holder saying, kick those on the right. So it's both sides.
Well, first of all, I think there's 2 levels to addressing these bombs. The first is the law enforcement level, which is we don't know who did this. For those of us who lived from 1975 to the mid-1990s and saw the Unabomber effort, it took 20 years before the FBI was able to track down who was sending those bombs on behalf of the Unabomber, and then before he was finally caught. So right now, we have no idea who, what group, where they're from, or anything about who sent these packages. So for us to be speculating about what their motive was when we don't even know who they are is really quite premature. As to the political level, however, look, in the last few months alone, Eric Holder, the former chief law enforcement agent of the United States, says when the Republicans go low, we go and kick them. Hillary Clinton, the Democratic nominee for the White House, said you should not be civil to Republicans. And then Maxine Waters says, get in Republicans' face if you disagree with them. Those are direct encouragement of acts of violence and harassment of Republicans, not to mention the Sanders supporters.
Are you
kidding me? Actually went out and shot Steve Scalise, the Republican congressman.
That is true. Mustafa, your response to that, especially what happened with Steve Scalise?
It's outrageous to create a moral equivalence to what others have said and what President Trump said. President Trump attacks people on a daily basis. If anybody doesn't realize that, look at his Twitter feed. Are you kidding me? You're going to equate what President Trump does every single day, names people, and when it comes down to attacking the media, the day the bomb went to CNN, the President Trump had a rally, and he still continued to attack CNN and attack other media outlets. He calls them the enemy of the state. No other president in the history of the United States or any other politician has spewed the kind of vitriol that the President Trump does.
But you didn't answer the question about these remarks being made by members of the left, political leaders for the Democratic Party.
We keep saying the left. It's President Trump that continues to put he is insider in chief.
You still didn't answer the question, though, in reference to what Hillary Clinton and Eric Holder and others have said, Maxine Waters and Mark Snow.
President Trump's attacks are directed at legitimate political debate. That is not encouraging violence. The left has encouraged violence. Donald Trump doesn't do that. He attacks them for their political views.
Okay, we have to wrap it up. Mustafa, Mark, thank you so much for joining us. Obviously, the debate continues, and we'll be right back. Florida Governor Rick Scott vowing to protect people with pre-existing health conditions as he fights for a Senate seat. Scott slamming his opponent on Fox News at night, saying that Bill Nelson's record is concerning.
You shouldn't be denied your health care insurance if you have a pre-existing condition. Now, here's the difference. Senator Nelson was a state House member, never did anything about it. He was a state insurance commissioner, never did anything about it. He was a congressman, did nothing about it. Bill Nelson has never done anything to improve health care other than make the costs go up, deductibles go up, premiums go up, and co-payments go up.
A Real Clear Politics average polling numbers show Nelson leading Scott by 0.5 percentage point. Well, as healthcare plays a critical role in these midterms, President Trump is reportedly unveiling a new plan to slash Medicare drug prices today. According to Politico, costs could drop as much as 30%, saving Medicare more than $17 billion. And one of the ways that this could be achieved, negotiating for drugs directly administered by doctors to keep them in line with prices in other countries. So we'll follow that today. Well, now it's time for the good, the bad, and the ugly. Up first, as always, the good. Who does this beer thief look like to you? Look at that. Well, police in England posting his picture online. A lot of people think, they think it looks like Ross from the sitcom Friends. But actor David Schwimmer is proving he's innocent, posting this video, recreating surveillance video of the crime. He says he couldn't have done it, couldn't have been him since he's been in New York. Looks just like him. Well, now the bad, a military plane accidentally dropping a Humvee over a neighborhood in North Carolina.
I was walking, next thing I know, I didn't see nothing. I just seen one parachute right there. That just heard a boom. I just took off running, didn't look back.
Wow, well, actually, the Humvee was supposed to be dropped, but it was going to be a mile away for Fort Bragg. No one, amazing.